In the news tonight, His Majesty the King addresses the European Parliament in Strasbourg and urges Europe to partner in the effort to stop the global rise of Islamophobia, which he says is playing into the hands of terrorists. Iraqi troops and militias drive Daesh out of Al-Alam, clearing a final hurdle before planned assault on the city of Tikrit in the biggest offensive yet against the terrorist group. And the United Nations and Algeria host a meeting in Algiers to resolve the crisis in Libya as it continues to be split between two rival governments and their armed militias. Good evening and welcome to a new edition of the news. Here are the details. His Majesty King Abdullah, accompanied by Queen Rania, arrived in Casablanca at the beginning of a two-day work visit to Morocco. King of Morocco Mohammed VI, the Crown Prince and a number of royal family members led a host of senior officials to receive their majesties. The two leaders will hold talks on furthering cooperation ties between the two kingdoms, as well as developments taking place on the regional and international scenes. Earlier on the last day of his European visit, His Majesty met in Strasbourg with President of the European Parliament, Martin Schulz, as well as the European Commission President, Jean-Claude Juncker, and the EU Foreign Policy Chief, Federica Mogherini. The meetings focused on Jordanian-European ties, as well as current developments on the Arab and regional fronts, foremost the war on terror. His Majesty urged closer parliamentary and legislative cooperation with the European Parliament, highlighting the role that lawmakers play in promoting dialogue and finding common ground on numerous issues. Discussions also dealt with efforts to confront radical and terrorist groups that His Majesty said require collective efforts and a holistic approach to ensure the security and stability in the region and worldwide. In his address to the European Parliament in Strasbourg, His Majesty began by thanking the citizens of the city for their warm hospitality, saying Strasbourg represents a symbol of the transition from war to peace, as well as the reconciliation and unity of Europe. In his 15-minute address, King Abdullah said the fight against Daesh is not only a fight against terror, but a fight in defense of Islam and must be carried by Muslim nations, and urged Europe to partner in the effort to stop the global rise of Islamophobia, which he said is playing into the hands of extremists. Here's the full speech, and more regional and international news will follow.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Mr. President, distinguished members, thank you very much. Jordan treasures its long ties of friendship with this great institution, and I appreciate your invitation to speak here today. Permettez-moi aussi de remercier les citoyens de Strasbourg pour leur hospitalité chaleureuse. Cette ville représente toujours un symbole de passage de la guerre à la paix, un symbole de la réconciliation et de l'unité de l'Europe. My friends, people thrive where there is mutual respect. Civilization is built on it, and futures are better for it. But coexistence must be made and made again in every generation. The common good is defended only by vigilance and action, and this means more than security measures. Humanity must arm itself with ideas, with justice, and with economic and social inclusion. Today, these challenges have a special importance. Our world faces an assault by terrorists with ruthless ambition. The motive is not faith. It is power pursued by ripping countries and communities apart in sectarian conflicts, and inflicting suffering across the world. The savage murder by Daesh of Jordan's hero pilot outraged all Jordanians and horrified the world. And Jordan's response has been swift, serious, and determined. And our fight will continue. We and other Arab and Muslim states defend not only our people, but our faith. This is a fight that has to be carried out by Muslim nations first and foremost. This is a fight within Islam. And at the same time, the danger of extremism must be seen for what it is, global. The threat is not only in Syria and in Iraq. It has struck Libya, Yemen, Sinai, Mali, Nigeria, the Horn of Africa, Asia, the Americas, and Australia. Europe has suffered despicable attacks and shown unbeatable courage. Your friends are with you. In January, Rania and I joined millions of people in France who marched united against violence and intimidation. My friends, there are those living in Europe today who remember the ravages that struck the continent in the late 1930s and the world war that followed because of an aggressive expansionist ideology based on hatred and disregard for the very essence of humanity. Europe's war became the world's war. Today we are fighting a similar war, a war against an expansionist ideology that feeds on hate, that is committing murder in the name of God and religion, to justify evil actions that no religion tolerates, a war against terrorists who disrespect Islam's values and humanity's values. Our victory now depends on our unity, and Europe's role is vital. Only by cooperation can our regions shut down the sources of terrorist support and defeat their purposes. And it is also essential that our regions renew the source of our great strength, the mutual respect that binds and sustains us. Young people especially must be inspired by values that reject violence, create peace, and build inclusive societies. And let me suggest three areas of importance. The first is meaningful interfaith outreach, engaging people where they live. A dialogue of respect is a rockbed of all societies. Attacking and excluding others, insulting other peoples and their faith and their convictions, this is no way forward. The future lies in unity and respect, not division and stereotypes. Europe is an important partner in this effort, especially in helping to stop the global rise of Islamophobia. This poison is based on false ideas, and help plays into the hands of these extremists. This is what is important to clarify, what it really means to be a Muslim. And I and countless other Muslims have been taught from our earliest years that our religion demanded respect and caring for others. The Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, said, "None of you has faith until you love for your neighbor what you love for yourself." This is what it means to be a Muslim. Among the very names of God we hear the compassionate, the all-merciful. All my life, every day, I have heard and used the greetings, Assalamu alaikum, a wish for the other to be blessed with peace. This is what it means to be a Muslim. More than 1,000 years ago, before the Geneva Conventions, Muslim soldiers were ordered not to kill a child, a woman, or an old person, not to destroy a tree, not to harm a priest, not to destroy a church. These are the same values of Islam we were taught in school as children: not to destroy or desecrate a place where God is worshipped, not a mosque, not a church, not a synagogue. This is what it means to be a Muslim. These are the values I teach my children, and they will hand it on to theirs. My friends, I am outraged and grieved by the recent attacks in some countries against Christian and minority communities. This is an offense against humanity as well as Islam. Arab Christians are an integral part of our region's past, present, and future. Jordan is a Muslim country with a deeply rooted Christian community. Together, the Jordanian people make up an indivisible society, friends and partners in building our country. The world's Muslims have a critical role in global understanding. Our faith, like yours, commands mercy, peace, and tolerance. It upholds, as yours does, the equal human dignity of every person, men and women, neighbors and strangers. Now, those outlaws of Islam who deny these truths are vastly outnumbered by the ocean of believers, 1.6 billion Muslims worldwide. In fact, these terrorists have made the world's Muslims their greatest target. We will not allow them to hijack our faith. My friends, the second area key to global harmony is an international system that gives all people the respect they want and deserve. Again and again, I hear the question, why does not the world defend Palestinian rights? Time after time, the peace process has stalled. And let me say what the situation looks like in reality. More Israeli settlement building, less respect for the occupied Palestinians. This failure sends a dangerous message. It erodes trust in international law and community. It threatens a pillar of world peace, that conflict must be solved by political means, not by force, not by violence. And it has given the extremists a powerful rallying cry. They exploit the injustices and the lingering conflict to build legitimacy and recruit foreign fighters across Europe and the world. It is time to think about the future and how this ongoing conflict will breed further hate, violence, and terror across the world. How can we fight the ideological battle if we do not chart the way forward towards Palestinian-Israeli peace? Our countries united must provide the momentum and chart the way forward towards a final comprehensive settlement. Ladies and gentlemen, a third critical effort is creating deeper hope. Radicalization thrives on economic insecurity and exclusion. To create stakeholders in a peaceful world, people need opportunities to fulfill their potential and build good lives. Helping them is a powerful message of respect. The European Parliament has recognized the importance of creating social and economic opportunities in naming 2015 the Year of Development. For Jordan, development is a priority. And despite all the regional challenges, we have pressed forward to meet urgent needs to grow jobs, to improve the quality of life through continued reforms and partnerships such as yours. And Jordan values our strong partnership with the European Union and its member states. And we are committed, with your support, to work together towards more advanced levels of partnership. Jordan also takes seriously our moral obligations to others. Despite scarce resources, the people of Jordan have opened their arms to refugees fleeing regional violence. As the President had mentioned earlier, Jordan has taken in thousands of Iraqi Christians over the past year. This in addition to giving shelter to 1.4 million Syrian refugees, which is 20% of the population over the past few years. This is more than the equivalent of France hosting the entire population of Belgium. Our small country is now the world's third largest refugee host, and I thank all of you who are helping us to uphold this global responsibility. My friends, your support sends a message, not only to my people, but to all those who seek to move forward in peace and moderation. Europe is with you. Our regions, our people, can find no better partners and neighbors than each other. History, geography, and future bind us. Let no one separate us, because together we can create pillars of mutual respect that will support the common good for generations to come. Thank you very much.
We'll take a short break, and when we come back, Palestinians voice pessimism about any prospects of change after next week's parliamentary election in Israel. And in tech news, Apple rolls out its newest smart device. More when we come back. The U.S. and allied forces conducted 8 airstrikes against Daesh terrorists in Iraq during a 24-hour period and 4 strikes in Syria. A U.S. military statement said the Syria strikes, all near Kobani, hit Daesh tactical units and destroyed fighting positions. In Iraq, 4 strikes near Kirkuk destroyed fighting positions, buildings, vehicles, and tactical units. 3 strikes near Fallujah also destroyed vehicles and hit tactical units. On the ground, meanwhile, Iraqi troops and militias drove Daesh terrorists out of the town of Al-Alam, clearing a final hurdle before a planned assault on the city of Tikrit. Dozens of families were reported returning to the town. The Iraqi army said it has retaken control of the strategic town in their advance towards the city of Tikrit, also held by Daesh terrorists. The Iraqi army and militias now control the two towns of Alam and Daldur to the north and south of Tikrit along the Tigris River. The terrorists today blew up a bridge over the Tigris, aiming to hinder any advance. Palestinians in the West Bank, Gaza and Jerusalem are voicing pessimism about any prospects of change after next week's parliamentary election in Israel. Despite 4 Arab parties uniting under one banner to form a joint list for the first time, and hopes that Israel's Arab minority will gain much-needed political muscle, most Palestinians say changes are unlikely to happen. Israelis will vote in a parliamentary election on the 17th. Likud and the center-left Zionist Union are running neck and neck in opinion polls, with Benjamin Netanyahu widely seen as having a better chance of forming a governing coalition after the vote. Surveys show the joint Arab list could even finish third in the vote and become a factor in the coalition building that dominates Israeli politics.
Even if a national unity government is formed, I don't think that government will be able to make any changes in the dealings with the Palestinians. There are many interlinked factors that relate to the agendas of each party, whether small or big. So I think all this affects the political situation and makes it difficult to change the overall structure.
The United Nations and Algeria hosted a meeting of Libyan leaders seeking to bring a political solution to the crisis in the country, split between 2 rival governments. The UN Special Envoy for Libya, Bernardino Leon, and Algeria's Minister of African and Maghreb Affairs co-chaired the gathering in Algiers that brought together Libyan party leaders and political activists. Libya's elected parliament asked the United Nations to postpone talks planned for tomorrow, with the aim of ending a power struggle. The talks will now be postponed for 1 week to allow more time for discussion of a proposal to form a national unity government. The meeting takes place against a backdrop of worsening violence in the divided country, which has allowed Daesh terrorists to strengthen their foothold in Libya. And back here at home, His Royal Highness Prince Faisal ibn al-Hussein, the Regent, received a U.S. Judiciary Committee of the House of Representatives led by MP Bob Goodlatte. Prince Faisal thanked the United States for its continued support to the kingdom as it addresses various challenges and continues to work towards achieving comprehensive reforms. Prime Minister Abdullah Mansour also met with the U.S. delegation and discussed with them Jordanian-U.S. ties, as well as the current situation in the region. Mansour said Jordan is determined to pursue the fight against terrorist organizations, saying the effort involves not just military action, but also addressing the ideology of extremists. Despite the many challenges, he said, Jordan continues to make achievements such as in education, quality health services, while also advancing women's rights. In the world of technology, Apple rolled out its newest smart device, the Apple Watch, and will start selling them in stores end of next month. The wearable device can not only function as a timepiece, but can also make and receive calls, send and receive messages and emails, and play music. Basically, it will allow users to use functions currently associated with the iPhone. The smart device can also act as an assistant and a health company, as it will track wearers' exercise and remind them of events and schedules. The watch collection comes in 2 sizes, with varied prices, of course, and comes in 3 collections: sport, casual, and high-end. Pre-orders for the Apple Watch will start on the 10th of April, and the launch on the 24th will include stores in the US, China, Japan, and 6 other countries.
Which one's the space? They said they come in multiple colors, right?
Yeah.
And to Paris and the Fashion Week. Chanel's Winter 2015 show was staged in an elaborate pop-up restaurant, complete with Parisian waiters serving drinks and food. Creative director Karl Lagerfeld showcased dresses and coats worn by models flitting in and out of the Brasserie Gabrielle, named after the label's late founder Coco Chanel, whose real first name was Gabrielle. Besides showcasing an array of Chanel staples, slimly tailored knit suit jackets paired with pleated or cigarette skirts, Lagerfeld had some fun playing with puckering. Sleeves of jackets became armor-like as they were covered with hundreds of crinkly tucks, giving volume and modernity to the otherwise traditional shapes. Actors Ben Stiller and Owen Wilson made a surprise appearance at Valentino's show, walking the runway in the guise of their Zoolander movie characters, models Derek and Hansel. The surprise appearance saw the duo dressed to impress in printed suits with coats over their shoulders, giving their best blue steel impressions as they strutted their stuff. Although it's been 14 years since their movie, the two showed they haven't forgotten how to work the runway. Three French sports stars, including two Olympic medalists, were killed in a helicopter accident during the filming of a reality show. Olympic swimming champion Camille Moufat, bronze medalist boxer Alex Vastine, and yachtswoman Florence Artaud were among the 10 people killed when two helicopters collided in Argentina. Authorities said it was still unclear what caused the accident in the rugged western province of La Rioja near the Andes Mountains. Chelsea are brimming with confidence and fortified by a 7-day break go into tomorrow's Champions League last 16 return match as favourites to knock Paris Saint-Germain out for the second season in a row. The Blues continued their training today as they prepare for the crucial match at Stamford Bridge. Last month's first leg in Paris ended in a 1-1 draw, and the Londoners followed their 2-0 League Cup final victory over Tottenham Hotspurs. Chelsea are 5 points clear at the top of the Premier League. And finally, fair conditions tonight across the kingdom, with southeasterly moderate winds. Tomorrow, warm conditions continue in most regions during the day, but a drop in temperatures is expected in the late hours, with a chance for thundery rain in most regions. Winds will be southeasterly moderate to brisk, stirring dust in the Badia. The Gulf of Aqaba can expect relatively hot conditions with northerly moderate winds and calm seas. Here now is a look at temperatures forecast for tonight and tomorrow. And to close, here's a reminder of the day's top stories. His Majesty the King addresses the European Parliament in Strasbourg and urges Europe to partner in the effort to stop the global rise of Islamophobia, which he says is playing into the hands of terrorists. Iraqi troops and militias drive Daesh out of Al-Alam, clearing a final hurdle before planned assault on the city of Tikrit in the biggest offensive yet against the terrorist group. And the United Nations and Algeria host a meeting in Algiers to resolve the crisis in Libya as it continues to be split between two rival governments and their armed militias. And with this, we come to the end of this edition of the news. I'm Ali Tuqan. Thank you for joining us and have a good night.